Hey guys, I'm BSC1 again. I had a viewer suggest that I make a Flareon deck list, so this is actually my friend Jeffrey Chang's deck list. I changed a couple cards because I felt like a couple things needed to be changed, but as far as Flareon goes, I don't think the deck is super solid right now, but if you are going to use it, I feel like this is probably a good place to start from, or a good list to use for Worlds or whatever upcoming metagame you're going to go in. So this is the list. So pretty thick Pokemon line, I believe it's 24. But you need to have a really thick Pokemon line in Flareon because you need Vengeance to do a lot of damage because Vengeance does more Pokemon for each Pokemon in your discard pile. So because of that, you need to run a lot of Pokemon. So I'm just going to lay this all out and then explain all the Pokemon and the reasons why I run the counts that I do. So, yeah, I believe that's 24. We have 4 Eevee, obviously, just because you need to get it down turn 1 if you can. That's pretty much going to be your priority, is to get as many Eevees down turn 1 as you can. And then 3 Leafeon, because Seismitoad can be a problem for the deck, so Leafeon helps with kind of dealing with that problem, I guess. And also, it's good against other decks like Kyogre and Groudon. Anything really weak to grass, Leafeon is super helpful against. 4 Flareon, because it's going to be your main attacker. Vengeance does 20 damage plus 10 more for each Pokemon in your discard pile, so when you have a bunch of Pokemon in your discard pile and a Bangle attached to Flareon, you can one-shot EXs sometimes. Also just good for two-shotting. It's a non-EX. Its attack is just pretty solid. Shaman is draw support because this deck doesn't actually have very much draw support. One thing to note when using this deck is you have to be very wary of how many draw support cards you've discarded and used, because you need to be very frugal with them, I guess I'll say, because the deck doesn't really have enough. I can't really fit more in, and Battle Compressor helps to thin the deck so you hit your draw support cards more, but if you can fit more draw support in this deck, it kind of needs it. 3 Audino, because it's, again, just for Toad, pretty much. It's also just another Pokemon that can go in your discard pile. Just helps accelerate getting Pokemon in your discard pile, so Vengeance does more damage. Audino is super strong. If you're poisoned and asleep, sometimes you can do crazy things where you Audino twice, and then you get out of both, and then you knock out a Toad or something like that, and then that pretty much gives you enough momentum to win. So Audino can swing games a lot against Toad decks or anything else running lasers. Then there's Tutu Bronzong. This is just for energy acceleration, or just energy recycling more like, because this deck only has 8 energy, so getting back those energy is going to be really important. 1 Ditto, because honestly this deck needed more Pokemon, and I couldn't really think of anything else to support the deck more. You could run like 1 Execute, or maybe like one of those fossil Pokemon that recycles itself to the bottom of your deck to help you not deck out, but I felt like Audino is probably going to be the best thing as another Pokemon just for support that you can just discard most of the time. But also early game, if you get a Ditto down because you can't have or because you didn't get an Eevee, then on the next turn you can evolve Ditto to Eevee and evolve it to Flareon in the same turn. So Ditto is good for that, but in general I find that usually it isn't very helpful for that reason, and most of the time you're just going to want to Battle Compressor it away. Mr. Mime is great against Landorus Bats. That's most of the reason why it's there. Also, just an easy Pokemon to discard in every other matchup. But yeah, it's going to help a lot against Landorus Bats because Landorus will do 30 damage to your bench and pick off Pokemon pretty easily without Mr. Mime in the deck. Bunnelby is great because it beats Wailord. Just running 1 Bunnelby beats Wailord pretty much every time. But more importantly, it recycles your resources like your double colorless energy, your silver bangle, your computer search, your 1 floatstone, your 1 of supporters. It's just good for getting back resources that you run out of. And occasionally it'll help against milling your opponent, and it's just another Pokemon you can Battle Compressor away if you don't think you're going to need it. 1 Cobalion, also helpful against Toad. There's a lot of stuff in this deck to help the Toad matchup because it can be tough if you don't tech properly for it. Yeah, just Righteous Edge is a strong attack against Toad deck. For supporters and other draw support, there's 4 Professor Juniper. Pretty obvious. You can do Sycamore instead if you like. 1 N, 1 Lysander, 1 Teammates, 4 Reverse Seeker, and 4 Acrobike, and that's all of it. This might seem like a lot to you, but in actuality, Acrobike doesn't count as like a supporter spot because it only gets you 2 cards. So I wouldn't really count those as separate draw support. And as a rule of thumb, I like to have at least 14 draw in a deck. And if you don't count Acrobikes, it's very, very low because there's only 5, 9, and then there's the Shamans too. So, and then teammates can be a draw supporter. So I tend to count acrobikes as like half. So we'll say 4 acrobikes is equivalent to about 2 supporters. Maybe even 3 equals 1. So, yeah, this very light draw support line, in fact. If you can fit Trainer's Mail, maybe, or 1 Chorus or a second N, those are all very nice and helpful in this deck. But as it is, it's really hard to fit anything else if you want to be able to one-shot consistently with Flareon. So this is all I could really fit. But 1 Lysander, I'd like to have more, but that's all I can really fit. Yeah, Lysander is just helpful, especially when you have the 4 Verse Seeker. You can just get it back kind of whenever you need it because you can just Battle Compressor away. 1 Teammates also because you can just Battle Compressor it away and then have access to it with Verse Seeker. And N, same situation, but N is also good just as a draw supporter early game if you don't get a Juniper or something like that. And then 4 Juniper to discard Pokemon as fast as you can and just draw as many cards as you can. Basically, this deck likes to go really fast. Oh, and then the acrobikes. Sorry, acrobikes are also just for speed, so you can get Pokemon in your discard really quickly and just also go fast. That's kind of how the deck works. Then items, we have 1 Computer Search, 1 Secret Ash, 1 Floatstone, 2 Silver Bangle, 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Battle Compressor, and that's it. I guess you can count the acrobikes and the Verse Seekers as items too, but I just put them in the draw section because that's all they're used for. 4 Battle Compressor, just get your Pokemon in discard pile as fast as you can, as well as the Lysander and the teammates. Anything else you don't need, it can just go in your discard pile. 4 just makes it really consistent. 4 Ultra Ball to get all the Pokemon you need, and discard the Pokemon you don't need to get Leafeon and Flareon out as quickly as possible. Eevee down turn 1, things like that. 2 Silver Bangle to increase your damage output so you can one-shot more easily with Flareon. Helps one-shot Toads with Leafeon as well if you can get it down turn 1, because after that they're going to item lock you. 1 Floatstone is just something to send up after something has been knocked out, so that you don't actually have to decide on the spot what Pokemon you're going to use, which helps a lot. And it's just good as a switching card, just because this deck doesn't really have any other switching cards besides the 1 Floatstone. And then 1 Sacred Ash to get any Pokemon that you need back into the deck. You're not always going to use Flareon to one-shot, and when you don't, then you can use Sacred Ash to, recover resources and just take like a 2-shot with Flareon instead. And then 1 Computer Search just to increase consistency, get things in the discard pile more quickly, and just get whatever you need. It's probably the most consistent A-Spec, and it's probably the best as well. So 4 double colorless energy and 4 metal to round out the deck. Only 4 metal seems really light for having a Bronzong line, and it kind of makes sense though because once you have them in the discard pile, you can just recycle them over and over again. So 4 is enough in my opinion. If you have the Bronzong line, and 4 double colorless is very obvious because you need to maximize that to use Flareon. So that's it. Alright, thanks for watching. Yeah, that's the whole list. If you have any suggestions for things you want me to post, like more lists or more matchups that you want to see, me and my friend Michael like to play different matchups that you guys suggest. I think I had one suggestion for next week, so I'll post that. But yeah, if you guys have any ideas, just be sure to comment them down below, and I'll most likely get to them. I respond to pretty much every comment I see, so yeah. Thanks for watching. Like the video if you like the video, comment if you want to tell me something, and subscribe for more.